from the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, USA, Fast Eddie Chambers.
Happy New Year, Eddie. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Happy New Year to you guys too.
Yeah. Okay. So Eddie, we got the news that so you're gonna be fighting at heavyweight now.
Yes, sir.
How you feel about that?
Feels a good move for me. I mean, I still can make the cruiserweight limit fairly easy, but at what cost? You know what I mean? I had the the recent loss to Taviso Junu.
Taviso, yeah.
And he's a pretty crafty fighter, good South African fighter, but not being 150% at your best, it's a little it's a little deflating when you see that you feel that you can win a fight. When you're at your best and then you can't perform and do some of the things you would like to do, it's really it's frustrating. And honestly, if it wasn't for my recent signing and joining of Team Fury, I might not even be in the sport. So, my boxing life right now, I was on life support at one point as far as my boxing life goes, and I think Peter Fury and Team Fury revived me. So I got to give them a lot of credit. They put their time and energy and money where their mouth is, and said, "Let's go and see if we can get some titles for you before the end." And I appreciate it. I can't appreciate them anymore.
So where did the chemistry come from? Did it come from you being one of the sparring partners for Fury getting ready for the Hay, and then you build your chemistry there, and you felt like this is the way you want to be in the Belgian camp?
Honestly, with Peter, I think you can see his sincerity and almost instantaneously with the conversation we had. At first, I was just there working with Tyson, and they had actually, which I wish I would have freaking took the invitation to come and join the camp before my last fight with the Vizoso, and I think I would have been a whole lot better prepared. Being back here, would have flew on out to work with those guys before. We'd have been we'd had a whole lot better camp. We'd have been, we wouldn't have to really want for anything. We had the best of sparring, the best of everything, but the way it was at the time, we were kind of uncertain in what we wanted to do, and it just wasn't in the cards at that point. And obviously, you see what happened with the fight. Then once I went out there and had a chance to sit down and talk with Peter. I mean, first of all, he was a really nice guy. I knew that from Twitter. He was he was really high on my boxing ability, which you got to have that. And you got to have somebody to have belief in you before you decide to work with him. And he had tremendous belief in what I could do. And then the sparring with Tyson, reaffirmed that, because Tyson being such a talent that he is, and I'm in there with a guy 6'9" still that can move like an athlete, and being able to hold my own was something for him, impressive. And obviously what I've done in my career before even that, he had a chance to really see, in person. So, and he showed interest, and believe me, the deal I got with Peter. At this stage of my career, after the losses I've had, even though, the one with Tomas wasn't really, in my opinion, a setback loss, it was just one of those, you charge it to the game losses, you know what I mean? I think, like I said, he gave me an opportunity that I don't think anybody else would have after that Mchunu loss, you know what I mean? So, like I said, talking with him and Tyson and, even his son Huey, there's a lot of promise in this camp, and I think, we could be like a three-headed monster coming out in the future if we really take care. Well, if we really can take care of business and do as we should, and I believe we all can probably maybe. It's kind of early, talks of this, and I don't want to get too far, ahead of myself because I don't like to put the cart before the horse. But we can all be world titles, so and we know that. So, that's just something that we got to work on.
For real. Okay, go ahead, Beats. Ask a question.
Yeah. I don't want to know, obviously, the exact paperwork, but Team Fury is not really a promotional company, so you're going to be working alongside Mick Hennessy, or how does it actually work?
Yeah, that's correct. We're going to be working, because he's been with the Fury, Fury camp for, like Peter says, always, since the beginning. You know what I mean? And I'm a loyal guy myself. You know what I mean? And the only reason I'm not, with my trainer that I had recently, which I feel like I could retire with him as a trainer, which was, James Bashir is one of the best trainers in the world today. Him and the only difference with the only reason for our I don't want to even say separation because we still have a really good connection was because of what Peter could do, because of my belief in his training in boxing, mind inside and out the ring. That's the only reason why I made the change, because I had no place in a sense too. But yeah, that's the deal. We're going to be doing some things together, and I'm going to try to get a couple fights, more than a couple fights this year. Get back on track, and maybe have something big, maybe toward the end of the summer or maybe the beginning of summer.
Okay.
I just want to get back to work.
So where are you based, and where are you going to be fighting in the immediate future?
Well, we're going to be doing a lot. I'm going to be doing a lot of fighting in the UK. The UK has great, intelligent boxing fans, and they're really passionate about their boxing. And so, in European countries, they're extremely passionate about their boxing. It seems like, and this is no disrespect, because I love where I come from and I love my people, but it's not as big and as it has been in the past in the United States. So you see a lot of guys my size, they're more passionate about the smaller weight guys, which is understandable. Those are some exciting fighters, and there's a lot of fighters from the States that compete at a high level. But, we have some big guys that are talented. You see Brian Jennings have his big win over Smith, and there's some quality guys out there. There's some names, some entertaining heavyweights and heavier fighters out there, but it's just really we're not selling like we need to. So sometimes we got to take a trip over the pond to make and get indoctrinated into the European crowd, which they're absolutely, you almost go into a boxing venue and it's almost like a rock concert. You know what I mean? Everybody loves it so much. So, and me coming over here, it's just it was something that was necessary. I should have done it a while back. You know what I mean? And it's almost like he right there. He came overseas, became a big name over here, then came back to the States and possible Hall of Fame in the future. So, let's just see if I can do something like that.
Okay then. Stuart, got a question for Eddie Chambers?
Yeah, how's it going, Eddie?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, and we spoke to Peter Fury in the week, and he said you was really struggling at cruiserweight. You was basically living on a vegan diet, and you just weren't very strong, and you had to move up to heavyweight, obviously, and now you're getting a lot more snapping your shots, you're hitting harder, and Peter said he's been working with you rolling under the jab and getting inside, but and that will work for you against these big heavyweights. But my question is, if you had a choice, if you could make cruiserweight easier, would you prefer to be in that division against the smaller guys where you got a better chance, or are you happy to go up and fight these 6'9" monsters? How do you feel about that? Because obviously it's a weight issue while you're at heavyweight.
No doubt about it. Don't get me wrong. Going up and fighting these big guys, and like I said, sometimes looking at Tyson and I'm looking like, Jesus, this guy's.
Yeah.
And then he's an athlete. You know what I mean? He reminds me of like a NBA basketball player. You know what I mean? With his athleticism, he doesn't look. He doesn't have like the ripped up. You know what I mean? Big, that kind of stuff like that. But he's a pure athlete, and it's like, man, this dude actually can run with me. And I'm like, there's not many big guys that can run with me. You know what I mean? And I'm like, this guy can actually run with me. So, and when you look at that and you see, man, this is where the sport is going. You know what I mean? Then you look at how our big guys in the States. A lot of those guys are playing basketball and football, and we've always had a great heavyweight crop of guys, but it was because most of those guys were around the 220s and at the most.
Exactly.
And now you see you got 6'9" and 7-footers running around. It's like, wow. You know what I mean? And you got a guy like myself, 6'1", trying to compete. It's like, oh my goodness. But there is a way for a guy like me to compete there. I mean, you've seen guys come up and challenge bigger guys like Holyfield with Bo, and even way back when Joe Louis was fighting those Primo Carneras and those guys like that, he was able to compete, and it's just a matter of how you go about it. And I think Peter has a great idea as far as how we're putting on weight. I haven't lost any snap, any speed in my punch at all by adding on this weight. I'm probably around 215 now, 216, and we're not even done. So. And I look probably better than I have ever looked in my entire career. And we're talking about even when I was young. Well, I'm not saying I'm not young now, but even when I was maybe 20 years old and actually had decent abs and everything, but this is even better than that. And I feel we got an excellent future, and definitely come this year, and then going into the next one. So the cruiserweight division honestly would be, that would be ideal, but it's just really hard when you're doing it yourself. You know what I'm saying? When you're just going and you feel like, all right, well, I got to lose this weight. I want to be strong. And don't get me wrong, I felt good in different times, but I didn't have what I needed. I wasn't eating right. You know what I mean? And when I first got here, oh my goodness, if you've seen the before and after picture, just even after 2.5, 3 weeks, it's almost like night and day. So, it's a different one. You don't have to worry or want for anything, and all you got to do is say, get your butt in the gym, get up every day, and do that 3 times, and you're good. You know what I mean? Get that 3 times a day, and you're good to go. That's all he asks. So it makes everything easier on me. He's a good businessman, and I'm happy to be here.
Definitely.
And can I just say one more thing, Errol?
Go on, Stuart. Go ahead.
Because we spoke to Peter, and he was actually telling us about your training regimes and obviously what he feeds you and all that. And as Peter Fury made you like a stronger man, because obviously he says that you've been working on different things. Because when you first came over, he said you used to pot shot the jab out quite a lot and put no sting behind it. And obviously with your size, you're not going to out jab 6'8" fighters. So he's been saying you've been working on building your strength, building your punching power, and getting inside and getting on the chest. Is that how you see things?
Honestly, it makes sense the way he's talking about it. We're putting some power into the jab now, more than ever. More jabs. Something that my dad always pushed for me to do when I was young. And we used to see a lot of the things that Peter's doing. He's almost like doing some of the things that my dad did, and also with James Bashir does. So you can see he has the experience and he knows what to do as far as bringing a fighter along. You know what I mean? So and those two, my dad and Bashir, and even with Rob Murray, who I was working with for a while, they were all good minds and they all understand certain aspects of it. But I think with Peter, he looks at the heavyweight division and looks at what I can do and finds a way to get me in. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes with a trainer that you'll be working with, they'll just be looking like, oh, you can do this, you can do that, and try to pack it all into one package. And you want to know, if we get one thing that works well, not to make us predictable, but to make that will work, and then you can spin things off and add a little twist of your own. Because let's not forget, even without a lot of help in a sense, with my road to the title that I had with Vladimir, I did get there, and it wasn't like I fought a bunch of stiffs to do it. So it's there's a lot there already. Yes, I'm a tiny bit older, but I still feel young. I don't feel like taking a lot of punishment because I haven't. You know what I mean? I'm not the kind of person to let you go ahead and punch me in the face 24 hours a day, even in the gym. So that's not my thing. So I'm still pretty fresh. So now it's just a matter of going about it the right way.
And you did get robbed against Adamant. Let's make that clear.
Well, appreciate you, seeing that. A lot of people thought that, Adamic actually, pulled it out because of his output. But when you land 15% of your punches or less, it's kind of hard to win. Now I know activity, you know what I mean. But let's not forget, I threw almost 600 punches, or about 600 punches with one hand. So it's not like I didn't throw a lot of punches. I mean, I threw I threw more punches than certain heavyweights throw with 2. And that's just that's not to say that those guys aren't good fighters because they don't throw a lot of punches. But the heavyweight average, isn't really that high. And I felt like my punches meant more, and they gave me more opportunity to land. I just wish I would have been able to use my left hand a little bit more. But things happen, and you got to find a way to adapt.
Definitely. Go ahead, Beats.
It was weird, man, because you see your last fight. I'm not laughing at what happened. It seemed like you picked the one cruiserweight who I've seen box like that. You actually look like, because normally when I see you fight, they're trying to walk.
Say it again.
You're trying to dissect them, and it seemed like a role reversal. Was that kind of a weird experience?
Well, it wasn't so much that. It was he's a very, very tricky kind of fighter. He's like if you want to compare him to like Rigondeaux, Lara, a lot of those Cuban guys who learn how to effectively get those points and make sure they stay out of harm's way and make you take all the chances. Plus the fact that all the pressure was on me. All this kid had to do was survive. Even if I would have won a close decision. You know what I mean? His stock still goes up 10%. 100% because somebody saw him before. He's fighting someone who's supposed to dominate the division. So that's always the danger of somebody like myself going from a big division where everybody got their eyes on, and I beat a lot of the best guys that were there, and then going out and fighting in a division where I'm supposed to reign supreme, and I have a tough fight, and God forbid lose to a guy like this who's unproven and untested and had a loss on his record to a guy that of course he would have beat 9 times out of 10. No disrespect to Moicasa, but he's I think Mchunu was a really talented little boxer, but it was just me not being as sharp as necessary, and me going into somebody who was prepared for me and prepared to win a tough fight in any way, by any means necessary. If he had to stink the fight out, he was prepared to do that, and he did. And with all the pressure on me and me trying to force the fight and do all of this and not being as sharp as I needed to be, it just was a recipe for disaster. And he took advantage. So I give him all the credit. He's a good young fighter, and wish him the best.
Yeah, for real.
So, sorry.
Go ahead.
So how good is he in comparison? I'm not saying, because obviously he hasn't got the same power as Vladimir Klitschko or something like that. But how good is he compared to anyone you've faced as a pro? Because he looked good to me. He looked skillful.
No. He's I'll give it to you like this. He's a different kind of fighter than Vladimir. Safe like him, but different. You know what I mean?
Beats is echoing a bit. Can you turn the volume down a bit?
Yeah, it's echo.
Yeah, go ahead. It's all right now. Go ahead.
Okay. He's a safe fighter like Vladimir is, but he's a different kind of. I was sharper and obviously a lot speedier than Vladimir, but Vladimir was still sharp. And at his size at 6'6", all he had to do was keep him out at his range, and he was always going to control the fight. With this guy, my range, that's what I should have done to him. You know what I mean? But like I said, I'm not used to having to go to somebody necessarily, especially a guy like that who's a little crafty, and to figure that out. And really, there wasn't a lot of studying that I could do with him. You know what I mean? I had to go in basically blind. And that was smart on their part to keep a lot of the video, offline, so there was no real studying. But there's plenty of video on me, so he understood, and his team understood exactly what it was they needed to do. They knew the pressure was on me. They knew that I had to impress and show my boxing skills, this and that, and then I had to knock him out. And at the end of the day, if you look at the fight, you see I was right hand happy. And that was because I was looking for that highlight reel knockout, and it's supposed to come and blah, blah, blah. But one punch doesn't want to fight. You know what I mean? If you look at the fight with Rigondeaux and my man, I can't believe I can't remember his name. Yeah, that's funny. He's a nice guy and everything. But anyway, if you look at that fight, Nonito is extremely talented. As talented as any fighter, but when you go in and Rigondeaux's experience, even as an amateur, carry it over to a pro, when the inside that ring, inside and out, another guy could not come in there with Rigondeaux and look to have that highlight reel knockout. It's just not going to happen. You know what I mean? Even if you do catch him once, that's probably the last time it's going to happen, unless that was the knockout punch, and it just never happened for him. And I think that's what, at the end of the day, the same problem I had with this kid.
Yeah. And
you can't do that. You know what I mean? And I think that's where we fell short.
Yeah, because I see he fought on the weekend, and he fought a Nigerian guy. He did the same thing. It's very hard to catch. He's 5'8". He's a little guy,
and
he's solid.
And he makes himself small.
Yeah. He like me, you said it stylistically is a very hard matchup, and I think he makes the very best look bad. You know what I mean? But even understanding that, at the cruiserweight, you said you made it easy, but you was living on a vegetarian diet. So do you feel stronger at the heavyweight, or when you was at the cruiserweight? I mean, if you landed that punch now, because he was ducking it now, you'd have done some damage still. So. Going back to what Stuart said, you can still do damage at both weights, because in England now we've got some fairly good cruiserweights. We'd like to see Enzo Mekanagi at cruiserweight, and there's some good cruiserweights for you to fight. You could fight at both weights. How you feel about that? Feeling at both weights, or you just still going to stay at the heavyweight level?
Well, that gets me onto my question.
Let him answer the question, Stuart. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's going to be the same question.
Yeah, but let him answer the question.
The hook thing.
Stuart, let him answer the question. Go ahead.
Well, the thing is, I know it was actually my idea, my plan, You know what I mean? When we first were doing it, because when I fought Tomas, I was 202 pounds on the scales, but I probably was more like 199. So I felt like, look, man, I can dance back and forth, win both titles if I get the opportunity at heavyweight. Bam, at 200 something, at like about 200 pounds, I can win the heavyweight title, and then get lucky, maybe fight another fight in a couple fights down the road. A cruiser, bam, win the cruiserweight. That was something I was thinking of doing. I mean, that's a fantasy world kind of, because it's really difficult.
Okay.
To get something like that done, but at this point, I mean, I think the pot of gold at the end of that rainbow is definitely in the heavyweight division for me, and I think the way we're training, that's where we're best suited at going.
Okay, go ahead, Stuart. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting, because the basic mine was the same question, but obviously with Marco Huck thrown in there, because I see on Twitter that you talking about wanting to fight him. I was just wondering, was that at the cruiserweight limit you was talking about?
Well, I mean, honestly, with Marco Huck, I mean, we have I'm having a little back and forth with him, and at the end of the day, man, I just want to move in silence right now. I don't want to do a lot of running my mouth, because regardless of what I've done in the past, this sport's more what have you done for me lately, and we all know that. But at the same time, it's very forgiving. So if you do something good, you're right back. So what I want to do is prove myself and let people see it, but at the same time, I don't want to run my mouth a lot, and that's something I'm not one of those big mouth guys or anything like that, but I do believe in what I can do, and the fact that I have team members around me that also believe it, and it makes me want to kind of get out there and just perform. I don't really need to do a lot of talking yet. Once I get to back to the world level where I believe I belong, then we'll start talking about setting up some nice fights. But right now, just trying to get back in the ring, have some successful fights going these next few, and then back on top. Once I get back up to that world title level, then we'll start putting names on the table.
Okay, Beats, go ahead.
So how are you going to get prioritized? Because you've got Tyson Fury and Yuri Fury. How are you going to get prioritized in the same camp?
Well, I mean, it's like this. I mean, they have we're all in the same situation, and we all train and work together. We iron sharpens iron, and we're helping each other. I think there's enough space out there for us all to get our own version. You know what I mean? There's still a lot of titles out there. Don't get me wrong. Vladimir holds 3. Vitaly just retired. I don't know if he's going to stay. You never know. You know what I mean? He still looks good, even in his 40s, performance. So never know how long that will last. But like I said, there's opportunities out there. There's some good fights. There's some good matchups that may set up title shots in the future for all of us. Huey still got a couple things more to do, but he'll be there soon. But it doesn't mean that we got to all think about, oh man, what if you're getting in the way of me? And it's not about that. You know what I mean? We can go around each other. It's not necessarily that we have to, meet head to head. And I think when you look at the idea of us fighting, obviously Huey and Tyson should never even entertain the idea because of being family, and it just doesn't make any sense. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, well, you're 2 top fighters, you should fight." But look, come on, you don't do anything like that. You play for keeps when you're getting in the ring, and you don't want to do that with a family member. And as far as it goes with me, I mean, the only thing I can see where there would be any kind of fight that we could set up in the future is if we can retire on the winnings, or or just retire on the purse. It just doesn't make any sense otherwise. You know what I mean? So I think, like I said, we can make our own pass and go around each other, and at the time ever come where we had to face off, it would have to be for some real life-changing money.
Okay.
But
go ahead.
I'll only do with a real question. You seemed quite adamant last time that cruiserweight was the solution. So how are we going to see a better heavyweight Eddie Chambers?
Say one more time.
The last time I spoke, you seemed quite sure that cruiserweight was the right step to make. And now you're going back to this. So how are we going to see a better heavyweight Eddie Chambers than last time out?
Well, if memory serves, I've always done extremely well as a heavyweight, even in defeats. You know what I mean? It's just, I think the way we're training now. No disrespect to anybody I've worked with before. I've always trained extremely hard. You know what I mean? But sometimes, like in particular with Bashir, we just didn't have the resources we needed. We didn't have the thing at our disposal to get to where we needed to go. You know what I mean? You know, as far as the business and even, you know, the training and everything. It just was really difficult. You know, you have all the talent in the world and all the talent around you in the world as well. And, you know, if you don't have what you need, you'll never get there. But with this camp, I believe that not only do we have the talent around it as far as, you know, the fighters, but also the training and the business and the connects as well. So it's all it's all there. It's just a matter of cashing in and going ahead and winning. And I think this team, you know, gives me the opportunity to do that. And if I was still going to cruiserweight, even if I came over here with Peter and say, oh, you know what, we're going to go cruiser, I still would have 150% confidence that I would still be able to dominate that division, regardless of what happened in the last fight. But like I said, no matter what, you got to understand there's a lot of things, and I'm not pulling out no excuses, because I still believe I should have won the fight. I should have got out there and did what I had to do. You know what I mean? And I didn't. It's my fault. At the end of the day, no trainer's fault, none of this, none of that. Even I don't care what all the things I had going on or what the problems were, I'm still paid to go out there and fight. Even if it wasn't a lot of money, I'm still paid to do that, and I didn't do enough of it. So.
You know truth. I wouldn't try and sort of like massage your ego. That's a 1 in a million cruiserweight. Like the way I couldn't believe the way he moved. Like, you know. So all right, we can forget that. But the reason I ask you that is, like, when I speak to most boxers, you like grammatically and from a mental standpoint, you seem like you're a very intelligent man. It seems to me you wouldn't hang around boxing if you didn't think you could win the heavyweight championship. So I'm assuming.
Say it one more time. Say it again. I'm sorry. I was kind of like.
You don't seem like the type of fighter who would hang around the game unless you thought you could win the heavyweight championship.
There's absolutely no doubt about that. Like I said, you're 1,000% correct. Like I said, my if it wasn't for me signing and working with Peter and Tyson and Huey and all, you know, and the crew, would mention that. Listen, or Mick, I honestly, I would be out of this game. I mean, listen, even right before I was signing, you know what I mean, I was questioning whether it was even worth it for me. You know what I mean? Because this game is, you know, especially where I come from, and I want to be home, man. As much as I love it over here, and you know, I love the people I'm working with now. You know what I mean? Boxing has been my life for the last 18 years, and to say bye to boxing, especially the way I was going to do it, would have been just hurtful, especially not getting to where I wanted to get to. But there's no way on earth if I'm going to compete in a sport that I don't, you know, at this level, and if I'm not going to be a world champion, it's just not worth it for me. You understand what I'm saying? I don't care if you can fight as a journeyman and make, you know, $50,000. I don't want to make $50,000 a fight. I want to make $1 million. I want to make a couple million dollars a fight with top level competition and consider myself one of the best of my era. If I can't do that, I don't want to compete.
That's right. And to be honest, I think, sorry to take up all the time, I think most boxers at your level should take that attitude. If they're not in it to win a championship, they need to stop. It's too dangerous a sport unless your ambition threshold is right on the edge.
Hey,
you don't really need to be in it.
There is no question. You're 100% right. I mean, you gotta think about that. I mean, no matter whether you can make, and I know guys who say, man, I make $80,000 to $100,000 a year just being a sparring partner and a journeyman for these heavyweights. I'm like, look, man, even in cruiserweight or lightweight or whatever division you may compete in, that is not a life that I want to live. I want to be able to enjoy my life when I retire with my kids. I don't want to be slurring. You know what I mean? I'm not in there to take punishment. I'm in there to win and make money and go down in history, you know, and leave my mark. But I'm not going to sit there if I don't think I'm going to be the best and just take punches from these kids. I'm not doing that. It's not worth it. You know what I mean? I don't care what anyone says.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Go ahead, Stuart.
Yeah, well, I just enjoyed what Eddie said there, and at the end of the day, we're glad to have you over here, Eddie, because obviously we're going to get to see you fight, and it's a good move for you because, like you said, the UK fans like to watch boxing. They'll fill up the stadiums, and you know, and as Peter said, he's got some fights lined up for you. So we're going to see a lot of Eddie Chambers. But I just wanted to change the subject a little bit because we had a debate the other night about the legends of the heavyweight division, and I mentioned the Klitschko's. I mentioned the Klitschko's having a right to be mentioned, and I got a bit of stick for it.
Right.
You obviously a man that's fought Vladimir Klitschko. You'll know better than all of us. Where would you put these guys? Obviously, I'm not asking you to put them in order, but do these guys deserve to be mentioned amongst the greats?
Well, there's no question about it. I mean, I don't care what you say about all the eras. Listen, boxing is still boxing, and evolution, of man is taking. It's going to take another step. Listen, like I said, if you look at Tyson, he's 6'9", and he's still boxing like guys were 6'2", 6'3" as heavyweights in the past. So I mean, listen, regardless of what you may think of them, they have been reigning as heavyweight champions for the last 10 years. You know what I'm saying? So you can look and say, oh, they're not exciting. Hey, look, hey man, there's a lot of guys that weren't exciting that were heavyweight champions. You know what I mean? And there were some that were, and there were most of them I guess were. But then you look at these guys and you say, oh, well, I don't really like the way they fight. Listen, winning cures everything, and the fact that they've been winning all these fights and beating top level competition of this era does not. And people look at this era as super weak and there's no recognizable names, but look, if you look at the American heavyweights, in the past, it's always been an American thing, and most people, look at success in the heavyweight division as having great American fighters. And the Eastern European bloc was never as dominant as it had been in these last 10 years. So, if people look at, oh, it's not no good division, there's no good fighters. Listen, the Klitschko's would have gave anyone trouble, man. I mean, there's some people that I think would have been able to beat them. You know what I mean? But they would have given somebody some trouble. It wouldn't have been just something you could just go through. You know what I mean? Vladimir with his size and he's super safe. If you get Lennox Lewis, he's in some ways a lot like Lennox, but different. But in some ways like Lennox, he has that size and strength and that KO power, but fights very safe. Lennox was a little more ballsy than he is, but he's similar in a sense because Lennox still was safe at times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes it breeds a boring fight, but it makes it very difficult for the opponent. You remember how much, Holyfield's one of my favorite fighters of all time. See how much trouble he had with Lennox? And it was that style. So you imagine him fighting Vladimir. Vladimir is even safer than Lennox. So imagine, you know what I mean? I'm not saying that I think that Vladimir would have beat Holyfield in his prime necessarily, but it would have been a tough fight for him. You know what I mean? As well as Mike. I mean, Mike was a vicious, huh?
Can I interject just quickly? Just quickly.
I couldn't hear you say it again.
No, I just want to interject very quickly, right?
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. The Ring magazine had Sonny Liston KOing Vladimir Klitschko. A lot of people disagreed with that. But here's why that was accurate, right? If Vladimir Klitschko was fighting back in the 60s or even the early 70s, right, he wouldn't have been allowed to hold as much as he holds now, right? When Ali held onto Frazier in the second fight, they stopped him in the third fight. That's why the fight was so exciting. If Vladimir had to fight and he was getting chastised for holding from the first belt against Sonny Liston or a lot of them heavyweights, I don't think he'd survive.
Well, we also got, and I agree with you. And some of these guys would have got him. Maybe Mike would have got him. Maybe Holyfield would have got him. Possibly. It's still not. Maybe being in a different era means you adapt in a different way. You understand what I'm saying? So there's a lot of things Vladimir does that you don't see. You see. Don't get me wrong. Especially if you know the sport of boxing, of course you see. But I mean that where he's not considered holding. But I mean when you are a shorter guy and you kind of go under him to come up with a shot and he lays on you and he gets that arm over top of you, and it's really difficult with somebody that big and that strong to come up with a shot when he lays on you and he lays that 250 pounds on you.
Yeah.
Listen, there was tall fighters in the past that may have been big and everything like that, but nothing with the combination of that size and athleticism. That's why I'm saying Tyson has such a great future, because there's not a lot of guys running around, you know what I mean, at this point in boxing that are that big and that athletic as well. So I agree with what you're saying to a degree, but you also got to look at, hey, what if Sonny would have got hit with that right hand coming in? Reckless.
So I think Vitali would have done better. That's what I'm saying. I don't think Vlad would have done very well back in the. I just don't. I think Vitali.
He might not have. He may not have, but he may have too. I mean, it's just one of those situations. You would have this hard to match up Aries because it's so different. You know what I mean? Like you say, he gets away with a lot of things, and money, is controlling a lot, and who's on top has control most of the time, and it's this and that is all taken care of behind the scenes, where it's not just you're fighting in the ring and that's it. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a little different. Whereas back in the day, hey, if you were fighting, you could have been ranked number 20, and you would have got a title shot. Hey, and it was all done in the ring. If you get lucky, you win that title, or if you're the better fighter, you win that title. And nowadays, there's a lot of iffy stuff going on. So I do see what you're saying to a degree, but like I said, he had just as good a shot as anybody to beat anyone in history. You know what I mean? And because he's so big, because he's athletic and he's strong, and he's actually a sharp puncher, so you gotta factor a lot of those things in. Now, don't get me wrong; some guys would have probably had the upper hand. Mike Tyson might have came in there and stormed him out of there. Maybe Joe, maybe Sonny. Who knows?
Yeah.
So how would you
one minute, please. Let me ask this.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. So what I'm saying, like what you just mentioned now. So you seem like you have the remedy, or maybe the answers how to fight him. It seems like to me you have to turn him rather than letting him rest and as you get close. Rather, in straight lines, you have to keep turning him and try to shoot some punches where he can't see. Like meaning like the right hooks. Catching him from the blind side as he's coming at you, and he tries to lean on you. You have to move out the way quickly and catch him. You know what I'm saying? Because you can see what happens. You can see what happens when he gets hurt. We know what happens when Vladimir gets hurt. But you see, as Stuart pointed out, the Klitschko equation with both of them is very hard to beat. But like I'm gonna continue with Stuart was saying, the answer to your question is that you'd rank them up there with all the greats. That's what you're saying. You know what I mean? But you sound like you got the equation to how to beat them if someone was going to fight them. If you was to train a fighter, I think you'd probably do pretty well of training the fighter how to beat them. I feel like the Chris Bird.
Well, of course. Yeah.
Chris Bird dealt with him pretty well. Vladimir, Vitaly, but you couldn't do that with Vladimir because it's different.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's different.
Yeah, he's more aggressive, so you could. You know what I mean? His style. They're both. But you rank them up there in the whole. You'd put them up there as one of the all-time greats. That's what you're saying, yeah?
You have to. It's just. It's unfair when you say, "Oh, well, this era isn't great." It's like, man, dude. Well, the names that you put out there. See, it's a different kind. You know what I mean? Like the Eastern European fighters are doing so much better because it's like they're not looking for a get rich quick. They're starting from birth over here now. You know what I mean? They're over here working and they just happen to be growing huge. You know what I'm saying? They're over there working on their game. Like I said, you look at Tyson Huey. These kids been boxing forever. You know what I'm saying? They got there early. You look at he's only 25. Tyson and Huey's 19. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? He got so much time, and they're already getting to the top level so fast. And they're huge and athletic. So it's a different era in boxing now. You know what I mean? But you look at the American guys. The biggest guy you're gonna get over there really, 6 foot 2 foot 3. And athletic, but I'm not saying that you can't get a big 6'7" guy that's athletic and can box. I'm not saying that, but it's just that like you see those kind of guys generally start later. Why? Because they were playing another sport when they were younger. You know what I'm saying? They don't grow up in the sport of boxing, so it takes on a different perspective if you look at it from the United States to overseas, and that's why Eastern Europeans are doing so much well because now it's a big man's game. You know what I mean? Every sport has gone through.
So what you say? So what you just mentioned there is with Deontay Wilder. So we can talk about Deontay Wilder. How do you see Deontay Wilder doing? Because as you mentioned, he didn't come into the game thing. He was doing other sports and that. So you don't see him being successful at that level. If let's say the Klitschko's was to drop down, do you see him being successful? No, you might fight him. You might fight him as an opponent. How do you think you fare against Deontay Wilder?
Well, see, the thing is with him, it's hard to say he hasn't really been tested enough. You know what I mean? He's been in with some names, but well, not really. I want to give him credit because he's gotten to where he is. He's got all knockouts. He's done what he's supposed to do in a sense, and get these guys out of there. But looking at his record, there's a lot of guys on his record I would have knocked out as well. You know what I mean? Even me being as small as I am and not being the quote unquote puncher that he is, but. It's like what happens when, a guy gets in there with him that he can't just land that big right hand on. He's got to figure out something else. It's like, man, I can't land this shot. I got to figure out something. I got to be able to, change on the fly and see with somebody like him who hasn't been in it forever, it's not something for him that he could just flip a switch. It's just like me going over and think I'm gonna play in the NBA. I mean, look, I can dribble the ball a little bit, maybe make an occasional jump shot, but if I get one of those top left defenders on me, and what do I do then? And I don't know how to get to my spot. He's stopping me from getting to where I want to go, and it's just not a reflex for me. It's just so in certain instances with Deontay, it's just not a reflex for him.
So,
you know what I mean? He get in there.
So let me ask you this question. So, but he went to the Olympics and he received the bronze medal. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that he showed he's got amateur pedigree. A lot of guys don't even get to the Olympics. So he seems like at the amateur stage, he received the medal. So even though he's only exhibiting that style with the opponent, don't you think as the opponent step up, then he steps up his level? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But most people. Yeah. Go on.
No. I was gonna say. I mean, I think he's gonna have success to a degree. I mean, I don't know how he's gonna handle. See, that's what we want to see is when he gets in there with somebody who is not gonna just stand there and let him hit him with that right hand. You know what I mean? He has a good right hand, but what happens when somebody's not gonna be there for it? Or what happens if somebody takes it and continues to get on his behind? See, it's then you have to show your different dimensions. When that one thing that you can lean on all the time doesn't work anymore, or doesn't work as well as you need it to work for you to win in the easy way, then it's time to, now you're really in the game. Now you're really in a fight. And yet we have not yet seen him in that situation. Yeah, he's been dropped a few times, and a lot of young fighters go through that, especially with the inexperiences. Even though he has, like we mentioned just now, the amateur pedigree. Even with that, it happens to fighters. I mean, even De La Hoya has been dropped, earlier in his career. There's a lot of other good fighters that have been down. It just happens. You know what I mean? You make a mistake, you get caught. But I want to see beyond that get dropped, what he's gonna do when someone has him figured out in a sense. How do you adjust? That's necessary.
Yeah. Okay then. Stuart, go ahead. You haven't talked for a while. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering what your thoughts were. Do you believe that boxing in America will get bigger if they get an American heavyweight champion? Because I believe boxing is obviously, it's still a big sport, but it's going down the ladder in America, and I believe that's due to not being a heavyweight champion in America. What's your thoughts on that?
I agree with that to a degree. I mean, Shannon Briggs a few years back won a version of the title from Sergey Liakovich, which was, but there wasn't a whole lot of super big fanfare behind him. I mean, we got an American champion. Thank our lucky stars, but of course he went in and lost it, soon after. But it's like people from America, because we've been so used to dominating in sports. I mean, listen. I said this recently. If basketball, if we were still, hovering around bronze medal in the Olympics type stuff with basketball, believe me, basketball in America would start to slowly go down. Believe it. You know what I mean? Because we feel like the best basketball in the world is played on U.S. soil. The best fighters in the world, the best NFL player, whatever, they're all on U.S. soil. We believe we are the greatest. You know what I mean? So if we see somebody who wins a title, okay, great, he won a title, but can he beat the best? You know what I mean? Yeah, you can win a version of the title.
What I meant by that was, Eddie. Sorry, Eddie. What I meant by that was, though, I meant an undisputed heavyweight champion. I'm not on about one of these little belts that have just been made up to make the fight look good. I'm on about an undisputed, since Lennox Lewis, like an American Lennox Lewis, something like that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think at that point, boxing would finally get some real fanfare again, because we always want to see the big guys. And everybody wants to see the heavyweights. So, yeah, there's no question about it. There's an American reigning heavyweight champion for maybe a couple years with all the belts. Yeah. Oh, yeah, boxing's back in a big way.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Cheers.
Yeah, that might be, it could be you, man. Could be you coming out.
Hey,
man. You know what I mean?
I love it. I love the idea.
Yeah, man.
I love the idea.
Yeah,
man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A little boxing trivia for you guys. Technically, Shannon Briggs was the lineal champion after he defeated George Foreman. Technically.
Say it one more time.
Technically, Shannon Briggs was really the lineal champion after he defeated George Foreman. Foreman never actually lost the belt in the ring.
And that's crazy, because he fought, and then he won a title with, he won a title with that fight with George?
Well, technically, not on. There's no alphabet belt. There's no technical belt there. But George never actually lost the lineal championship in the ring. And
okay.
Yeah, by lineal.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
Oh wow, okay, wow. So he really he won it twice. Oh, okay, I got you. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, and then when he fought
that's like
Lewis, when Lewis took him, that's what made Lewis, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
Lewis
wow.
became the guy, man. That's how it, you know. That's how that's how I credit, and a lot of guys as well, Beats as well, how we credit the linear of the championship. You see what I'm saying? Like the Klitschko's right now, the Klitschko's are still not undisputed. The last undisputed champion is still Lennox Lewis. Until you need to bring him out of retirement and beat him, he's still the champion. Technically,
it's so hard. It's so hard to do that. I mean,
no, you don't.
I agree, Eddie. I agree. It's hard.
It's hard. Could you imagine? And even if, listen at this. This is what the funny part is. Even if you did bring Lennox out of retirement and Lennox looked good in shape and ready to fight,
Yeah.
If he loses to Vladimir or even to Vitaly,
Yeah.
he's still not beat. He still didn't beat Lennox Lewis because to them,
Joe Lewis and Rocky Marciano is the same thing, right?
Yeah, but guess what? This is a different era. You know, listen, we are hanging on to the past in boxing, right? Especially in the States. So when you look at somebody beating Lennox Lewis, the only way that Vladimir can beat Lennox Lewis, and people will say, oh, he really beat him, is if Vladimir retired for 3 years, came back, and Lennox and him fought after being retired, then maybe they'll say, okay, fine, you know, he beat him. But there's no way. It'd be impossible. It's like if you said, okay, Vladimir beat Holyfield. If Vladimir goes and beats Holyfield like most of us expect, but he didn't beat the real Holyfield, it's always going to be that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a tough situation. But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. It's crazy, right? It's crazy.
So Eddie, have you had to deal with the media over here? And if you have, what's the differences in the media over here and back in America?
The difference is from. All right, say it one more time. I'm sorry.
The media. Have you dealt with the media over here?
So far?
Yeah, what's the difference between here and over there?
Well, it's similar to the boxing, and you know, as far as the people looking at the fights. I mean, if you're doing well, over in the States, then they're high on you. If you're doing bad, they turn on you like it's very, very quickly. I'm so far with the European and the UK media. They've been pretty standard. I mean, the same. I mean, it hasn't really been like, oh, well, of course, if you lose fights, I mean, there's no way you can keep on saying, well, he's going to come back now. Eventually, you're going to say, well, he's just not the guy anymore. But I mean, they've been okay with me. I haven't heard any too much negative things coming from here. I mean, obviously, they're going to say, look, he lost his last fight. He lost his last 2 fights. Didn't look that good in one of them. And the truth is, but maybe he can come back now. Once you become a part of the clan or the crew, part of the UK or the European, they start to really, really, really welcome you, with open arms. So far, is what it seemed like to me. Of course, maybe there's a few guys. Oh, he's nothing. He's going to lose. Of course, there's going to be some that say that. But the vast majority that I've seen and the things that I've paid attention to anyway have been positive. So, I'm not saying that the American media is not good. And of course, I got my guys in the American media that I always stay with, and I do interviews and I talk to them like we're friends or family. You know what I mean? But of course, like there's certain ones that their little thing about them, and it's like they'll never believe in you. You know what I mean? But like I said, with the UK and Eastern European media, they seem to have been pretty good. Even the guys with the television and everything, they're really really good guys.
One minute, guys. Let me ask a question. So I think I've 2 questions. When are you coming to London, and who's going to be your first opponent? That's what I want to know. Who you going to chop up first?
Well, I'm going to be at Tyson's fight. So we're a team.
I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna see you because Vivian Harris is fighting on that card, and me and Beats are going to few rounds, so we might actually see you. Go ahead, and then so you
okay,
come.
Good.
So you come to London. You come to London then, and then who's your first opponent?
I'm not sure right now. I mean, still up in this. It's a little up in the air right now. We're probably going to jump in maybe sometime in March, most likely toward the end of March around my birthday. So we'll see what we can shake out and see what kind of fighters we can get.
Do you want me to suggest some? I could suggest a couple. I don't know if you've seen them though.
Who's that?
There's Michael Sprott, and there's what's the Bedford's Bear? Oh, what's the Bedford's Bear name? Beats.
Oh, Matt Skelton.
Yeah, Matt Skelton and Danny Williams. Some of these opponents, they'll give you a little fair test, but you should overcome them though.
no question.
Definitely.
I mean, those aren't no kickovers. Those aren't the kind of guys look at and say, "Oh, I'm gonna go ahead and knock them out and walk out." No, it's not that simple with those guys. I mean, they're quality fighters. Even though they obviously haven't had the world title success. I mean, they've been there. They've been in and around some of the best fighters in the world. So you got to respect them. I don't care what level and how far and how far down they have seemed to drop. So they're not kickovers. However, I'm not sure. Those are good names. I mean, nobody's ever given me an easy fight. You know what I mean? So, how many times have you seen Eddie Chambers fighting this bum on? No, sir.
It's true.
It just doesn't happen like that. I mean,
in the UK though, boy, there's loads of guys. There's loads of guys in the UK that they ain't on that level. Like you're you've been in there, bro. You're the big fish out here.
Yeah, well, this is it, Errol. I mean, when you put that fight to Peter about Lucas Brown, I mean that's a great fight. And Peter actually said that he's very, because we put it on to Huey Fury first. We said, how about Huey fighting Lucas Brown at the time? And he turned around and said, no, I prefer Eddie Chambers to fight him. But we want to get Eddie Chambers 2 warm-up fights first, get in the swing of things at the weight, and then we're going to start moving on with him. So how do you feel about that fight? Because obviously this kid's dangerous. He's got 17 KOs and 19 fights. He's undefeated. He's a big lump. So that's another threat to you. So Eddie, how do you feel about that?
Well, look, he's he's a good guy from what I've seen. I mean, he got some he's not the crafty kind of guy necessarily, but he's a big, strong guy, always dangerous. He's the kind of fighter that you got to respect. You can't go in there with no huge head. Just think you're just gonna go in there and just walk through him or box his head off or whatever, because he got that he has that equalizer. And he's also won a few fights by decision against maybe a little past it as far as James Toney is concerned, but still very crafty veteran. And for you to win a decision over a guy like that says something. I don't care if he barely threw 5 punches throughout the fight. You know what I'm saying? It's still, you've been in there with that quality. Of course, it's not to say it's the best win in the world, but he still won that decision. So he's not somebody that you don't respect. And like I said, I have the utmost respect for him, and maybe that's something that we can get done in the future. I mean, I would love that fight, and it's great for the fans. He has a great following in Australia, and
exactly.
Great fans there as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes sense. That kind of a fight would make sense. Eddie Chambers and Lucas Brown is a good quality heavyweight matchup to see where we can go as far as being, as far as in the title picture in the next year or so. So why not? That's something that is a good look. I wish Lucas the best, but at the end of the day, we may have to meet in the future, and I'm sure there's no animosity, to go along with it. But hey, you got to get in there and throw punches. So, it's not going to be who can be the nicest guy contest. It's going to be beat the guy.
The thing is with that division. The thing is about division, Eddie, everywhere you look, there's just monsters looking at you. So, I mean, you've picked you're a very brave man for a man your size to be, fighting these guys, and I'll give you a lot of credit for that.
Eddie, man, I think I don't know, you call yourself your name's Fast Eddie Chambers. You should call Eddie the Giant Killer, man. The Giant Killer Chambers, man, for real, man.
That's the Giant Killer.
Yeah, you're the Giant Killer, bro.
Yo, man, I heard a few names, man. I heard one of the had one of the fan questions, and they said, "Oh, you a Wu-Tang fan?" And he said, "Man, you should change your name to Eddie 36 Chambers." I'm like, "Oh, that sounds kind of nice."
36 Chambers, that's all right name, boy.
Yeah, I had another one that said, actually it was a fighter. They said, actually it was Tony. And one of the kids, Tony Thompson, we was a cat together. He's like, "Man, you changed your name to Eddie One in the Chamber." I'm like, "Oh, that was nice too."
Eddie One in the Chamber.
They want to give me these gun names though. I'm a person. I don't want to kill anybody. But it's like some of these names, man. I wish I would have had these ideas when I first started. I would have probably used some of them. But we'll see.
Yeah. Go ahead, Beats. Go ahead.
Have you seen the prize fighter tournament over here? Would you enter something like that?
That's good. That's a good question.
You said the prize fighter?
Yeah. We've got prize fighters.
It builds your popularity. It's a good for the go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm not gonna say. I'm not gonna sit there and say, "Oh, I'm above that." No, I don't think anybody, in a sense, would be above anything like that. It can give you an opportunity to, like you said, boost your popularity. But I mean, it's 3 rounds. I'm a 12-round fighter. I've been that way for my entire career. Sometimes people, some people who start slow may have trouble in that kind of a thing. Not saying that I will start slow. Obviously, I know I got 3 rounds, so I got to get out there and pedal to the metal. You know what I mean, right away. But I don't know. You know what I mean?
There's no shame in the prize fight tournament. There's no shame. I mean, it's great promotion.
No. Listen, at the end of the day, boxing is boxing, and that's something that like there's a lot of people that have been in there, a lot of good fighters and top fighters that have been in there, and won it or even just competing. So there's no shame in being in there. I'm not saying that. It's just I have my sights set firmly on being something special in this game, and if it doesn't happen the way I want it to, and the way it should for me in my eyes, and it's just not worth it for me. You know what I mean? I don't want to go in and God forbid, have one of those situations like a cruiserweight. You go down to cruiser and you take a unnecessary loss in a sense when I could have just been fighting heavyweights and winning. I don't want to make a mistake like that again. I can't afford to. So at the end of the day, I'm going for these titles, man. That's my plan.
Okay.
That's our.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds good, man. Stuart, go ahead.
Yeah, I've got to shoot, guys, but I just wanted to say thanks to Eddie for answering the questions. Pleasure talking to you, and I'm definitely going to be following your career, and I'm definitely going to be supporting you in all your fights. So hopefully we can get you on our podcast. Hopefully we can get you on our podcast show post-fight or something, and then you can talk about the whooping you just put on someone, because it'd be great to hear from you again. But I've got to go out of here, Eddie, so take care.
No problem.